I'll try and catch Martin and Paul out. Get a sneaky one in. So, this is the Boxing Librarian. Welcome to my Top 1000 Countdown. On this video, we're going numbers 70 to 61. I'm sure I can catch them out. They won't expect me to do one so quick. Anyway, on this video we're going numbers 70 to 61, so let's go to fighter number 70 now. And that fighter is the great welterweight and middleweight fighter Dave Shade. Now Dave Shade beat 5 world champions. He fought 143 rounds against champions. And Shade beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting a total of 92 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Dave Shade had a total of 71 fights against rated fighters. 71. He scored 17 knockouts, 8 knockouts. Oh, damn, you caught me. I was trying to be sneaky. I should have come on saying, "Hi, this is BL. Don't let Paul or Martin know I'm trying to catch them out because they always catch me." Oh well, hey, I tried to be sneaky and sneak one in. So you went later. Damn, he did another. Nah, you two guys. Anyway, Dave Shade was top 10 rated for 10 years. He had the longest unbeaten run of 21 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 5 years. Now, Dave Shade had 16 fights against pound for pounders and scored 5 wins. He scored 2 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Dave Shade's opposition fought rate comes in at 11 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 6 from 13. So Dave Shade had 16 fights against champions, including 5 wins, 6 losses, 5 draws with 2 knockouts. He had 9 fights against Hall of Famers, including 2 wins, 5 loss, 2 draw with 1 knockout. And Dave Shade had 2 title fights, including no wins, 1 loss, 1 draw with 0 knockouts. So there is Dave Shade there in number 70. When we go to fighter number 69, it is great middleweight fighter Jeff Smith. Okay, Jeff Smith beat 7 champions. He fought 360 rounds against champions. And Jeff Smith beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 195 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Jeff Smith was a mainly pre-rating era fighter, so he has a vastly reduced number of 20 fights against rated fighters. He scored 48 knockouts, 27 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 6 knockouts in the first round. And Jeff Smith, likewise with the pre-rating era, was limited to being top 10 rated for 1 year. Now, his longest unbeaten run was a run of 22 fights, and Jeff Smith was pound for pound rated for 3 years. Now, all in all, he had 29 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 13 wins. He scored 7 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 1 win against a pound for pound number 1 fighter. And Jeff Smith's opposition fought rate comes in at 8 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 5 from 13. So Jeff Smith had 31 fights against champions, including 17 wins, 13 losses, 1 draw with 1 knockout. He had 19 fights against Hall of Famers, including 3 wins, 14 losses, 2 draws with 0 knockouts. And Jeff Smith had 0 world title fights. Again, another one to add to the long list. So fighter number 68, okay, is multi-weight champion Benny Bass. Who was a great fighter and didn't get the full credit in his time for his light welterweight run, but gets more credit for that now, thankfully and rightly. Barney Ross, okay, beat 6 world champions. He fought 140 rounds against champions, and he beat 4 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 120 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Barney Ross, okay, had 24 fights against rated fighters, and he scored 22 knockouts, 11 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 2 knockouts in the first round. Barney Ross was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years, and he had the longest unbeaten run of 35 fights. Now, Ross was pound for pound rated for 4 years in my all-time rankings, and he had 13 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 11 wins from those 13. He scored 3 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 3 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Barney Ross's opposition fought rate comes in at 4 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 4 from 13. So Barney Ross had 13 fights against champions, including 10 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw with 0 knockouts. He had 9 fights against Hall of Famers, including 7 wins, 2 losses, no draws with 0 knockouts. And Barney Ross had 14 world title fights, including 11 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw and 9 title defences. So there's Barney Ross in 68. When we go to 67, okay, is the great middleweight fighter who again, guess what, never had a world title fight. Okay, the great St. Paul Phantom Mike Gibbons, the older brother of Tommy Gibbons, who we've already covered. Now, Mike Gibbons, okay, beat 9 individual champions. He fought 140 rounds against champions, and he beat 6 individual Hall of Fame fighters, fighting 148 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, in a very reduced number, Mike Gibbons had 6 fights against rated fighters. He scored 38 knockouts in his career, 15 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 4 knockouts in the first round. Now, Mike Gibbons, due to being pre-rating era, was never top 10 rated. He had a longest unbeaten run of 27 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 5 years. Interesting little factoid, Mike Gibbons defeated Harry Greb. Now, after Gibbons defeated Harry Greb, Mike Gibbons went unbeaten all the way through to 1919 until Greb ended that win streak by gaining the revenge win. So after Gibbons beat Greb, he went unbeaten until Greb beat him in the rematch. Just a little factoid for you. So Mike Gibbons was pound for pound rated for 5 years. Okay, he had 28 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 19 wins. He scored 12 wins, which is a massive total, even at this stage compared to others. 12 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters, and 4 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Mike Gibbons' opposition fought rate comes in at 6 from 8. And his opposition beat rate was 5 from 13. So Gibbons had 15 fights against champions. That included 12 wins with 3 losses, no draws and 0 KOs. He had 15 fights against Hall of Famers, including 10 wins, 5 losses, no draws with 0 KOs. And Mike Gibbons had, as I said, 0 world title fights. So on to, let's have a look. It's coffee time. It is. I've got my cup. Look, this is me putting it down. It fits pretty much one of the old glass milk bottles, pints. It pretty much fills one of those. The ultimate coffee cup. I had to go searching online to find one big enough for my purposes. Because if I'm sat at a computer working for 3 hours, I need a nice big pot of coffee. So, let us jump on from Mike Gibbons. Did I? Yeah, I did. So, let us go on from Mike Gibbons, okay, to fight number 66, okay, and it is the golden boy, Oscar De La Hoya, who, gets miscredited, because everyone says Pacquiao's an 8-weight world champion. Well, technically he's not, because the lineal titles are not world titles, okay. So, Manny Pacquiao, if you list, I've always said this, I said this to someone, and then he went away and came back and said, oh, yeah. I said, right, list the titles, WBC flyweight, IBF super bantamweight, WBC super featherweight, and list all the titles he won, and then go, right, fly, super bantam, super feather, WBC lightweight of David Diaz, that's 4-weight, do you get me? And list the 4 main belts. Pacquiao's a 6-weight champion, as is Oscar De La Hoya. But of course, Pacquiao fans had the lineal titles. Suddenly, when Tyson Fury's lineal champion, it's fake, it's not a title. But there's many of the same fans, when Pacquiao is paraded as an 8-weight world champion, they don't correct themselves and say, oh, no, lineal titles aren't titles. He's actually a 6-weight champion. So anyway, the fun world we live in. So anyway, Oscar De La Hoya, okay, beat 19 world champions. He fought 225 rounds against champions. And De La Hoya beat 4 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting a total of 106 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. De La Hoya had 32 fights against rated opponents, which in 45 fights is quite remarkable. He scored 30 knockouts in his career, 13 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 4 in the first round. And De La Hoya was top 10 rated as a fighter for 13 years. He had the longest unbeaten run of 31 fights, and De La Hoya was pound for pound rated for 7 years. Now, all in all, De La Hoya had 13 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 7 wins. He scored 3 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 3 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Oscar De La Hoya, opposition fought rate comes in at 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 2 from 13. So De La Hoya had 26 fights against champions, including 20 wins, 6 losses, no draws, and 12 KOs. A great record when you look at the list of fighters he's fought, from Pernell Whitaker to Chavez to Hopkins to Trinidad, Mayweather, on and on and on and on and on. He has one of the best resumes in modern era, point blank. He scored 12 KOs from those fights against champions. De La Hoya also had 11 fights against Hall of Famers, including 5 wins, 6 losses, no draws, and 3 KOs. So put it another way, look, you see, 11 from 45 is virtually a quarter, just under a quarter, virtually a quarter. So virtually a quarter of all of De La Hoya's professional fights were against Hall of Famers. I mean, that's nearly 25% of his entire career against Hall of Famers. That's incredible tally, even for this modern era. Now, Oscar De La Hoya, had 29 world title fights. He had more title fights than he had non-title fights. So he had 45 fights, 29 of them world title fights. He scored 24 wins with 5 losses, no draws. And De La Hoya, across the 6 divisions he titled in, like Pacquiao, he made 17 title defences. Drunk Irishman in chat, shout out. So there's De La Hoya. Yeah, I've always said, De La Hoya goes very underrated. Not only is it that incredible resume fighting the guys I mentioned, Hopkins, Trinidad, Mayweather, Chavez, Pernell, Whitaker, you just go on and on and on. Okay, not only is it that, but he also titled in 6 weights, Fernando Vargas in there, Shane Mosley in there twice. I mean, his resume is ridiculous. But virtually almost a quarter of his resume is pure Hall of Fame fights. More than 50% of his entire career is world title fights. And that isn't really normal for many fighters in modern era. For some, but not normal. So, De La Hoya's in 66. Okay, let's go to fight number 65. It is Jimmy Wilde, the fighter who I always agonise over when I rate him privately. Because he was a great fighter, but, you match his resume against Joe Lynch, I mean, it's embarrassing. So, yeah, I always have trouble rating him. But anyway, thankfully, I have these automated ratings to do it for me. Spare me the headache. So, Jimmy Wilde, beat 4 world champions. He fought 114 rounds against champions. And he beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting 59 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Jimmy Wilde had 1 fight against a rated fighter, obviously pre-rating era fighter he was. He scored 99 knockouts in his career, 39 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, 3 knockouts in the first round. And Jimmy Wilde was top 10 rated for 0 years, again being a pre-rating era fighter. He had the longest unbeaten run that ran to 98 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 1 year. Now, Jimmy Wilde had 2 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 0 wins. He scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And his opposition fought rate comes in at 4 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 4 from 13. Now, Jimmy Wilde had 10 fights against champions, including 7 wins, 3 losses, no draws with 1 knockout. He had 4 fights against Hall of Famers, including 2 wins, 2 losses, no draws, and 0 knockouts. And he has 6 world title fights, including 5 wins, 1 loss, no draw, with 4 title defences. Paul Gasco, yes, Wilde has risen and fallen a lot in years in your slides, Bill. Ruby Roberts too, I believe. Yeah, certain fighters... and they also move when I used to amend what I scored on. That also caused movement. This new rating, I'm curious to see how fighters like Jimmy Wilde, I haven't got to flyweight yet in my ratings. I'm down at light welterweight now, soon to be on lightweight, working from top down, and there's less fighters in bottom half than top half. So when that's done, I'll find out when I do flyweight where Jimmy Wilde rates. But at the moment, Fitzsimmons is doing quite well in my new ratings, but we'll see over time. There's a lot of big fighters to add, lightweight, featherweight, and bantamweight, but we'll see. And flyweight, will a barb again out. So lots of big fighters to add. We will see how they go. So there's Jimmy Wilde in 65 when we go to fight number 64. Okay, he's one of the UK's greats, and he never even gets a mention by most people. Jackie Kid Berg. Jackie Kid Berg, beat 5 world champions. He fought 133 rounds against champions, and he beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 83 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Jack Kid Berg had 49 fights against rated fighters. He scored a total of 61 knockouts, 8 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 1 knockout in the first round. And he was top 10 rated for a total of 5 years. Kid Berg had a longest unbeaten run of 32 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 2 years. Now, he had 16 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 8 wins. He scored 5 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 1 win against a pound for pound number 1 fighter. And Jackie Kid Berg's opposition fought rate doubles Jimmy Wilde's at 8 8 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 6 from 13. So Jackie Kid Berg had 13 fights against champions. That includes 8 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw with 1 knockout. He had 9 fights against Hall of Famers, including 4 win, 4 loss, 1 draw with 0 knockouts. And Jackie Kid Berg had 10 world title fights, including 7 wins, 3 losses, no draws, and 6 title defences. So there's Jack Kid Berg in 64. When we go to fighter number 63, it is the Cuban Bonbon Kid Chocolate. Okay, one of the great featherweight stroke super featherweights in boxing history. Kid Chocolate beat 5 world champions. He fought 143 rounds against champions. And Kid Chocolate beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 99 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, he himself had 49 fights against rated opponents. He scored 51 knockouts, 24 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 11 knockouts in the first round. Kid Chocolate was top 10 rated for a total of 8 years, and he had the longest unbeaten run that came to 56 fights. Now, Kid Chocolate was pound for pound rated for 3 years. He had 12 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 6 wins. He scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Kid Chocolate's opposition fought rate comes in at 6 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 5 from 13. So Kid Chocolate had 14 fights against champions, including 6 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw with 1 knockout. He had 9 fights against Hall of Famers, including 3 wins, 6 losses, no draws with 1 knockout. And Kid Chocolate had 12 world title fights, including 9 wins, 3 losses, no draws, and 7 title defences. So there is the great Cuban fighter Kid Chocolate. On to number 62. Another fighter who's caused me often a headache in rating him. Okay, it's former super featherweight champion, long reigning super featherweight champion Todd Morgan, whose career was a bit hit and miss, because on one day he could be outstanding, on other days he'd get beat by fighters who really shouldn't be beating him, and some fighters who should be beating him. But you know what I mean, he was one of those long reigning champions whose career I define as a bit too inconsistent to rate higher, but still had major headaches rating him at times personally. So Todd Morgan beat 6 world champions. He fought 103 rounds against champions, and he beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 22 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Todd Morgan had 55 fights against rated fighters. He scored 29 knockouts, 8 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 1 knockout in the first round. Now, Todd Morgan was top 10 rated for a total of 5 years, and he had the longest unbeaten run that came to 30 fights. Todd Morgan was pound for pound rated for 0 years, and he had 10 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 6 wins. He scored 4 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Todd Morgan's opposition fought rate comes in at 9 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 6 from 13. So Morgan had 10 fights against champions. That included 8 wins, 2 losses, no draws, with 2 knockouts. Todd Morgan had 3 fights against Hall of Famers, including 2 wins, 1 loss, no draw, with 0 knockouts. And Todd Morgan had 14 world title fights. That included 11 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, and 10 title defences. So there's Todd Morgan in 62. Our final fighter of this video is another, okay, I've had a number of them, they're all showing up now. Pete Kid Herman just before the top 100, then we've had Joe Lynch and Kid Williams, Charles Bud Taylor, and now another of my top 10 bantamweights, the great Panama Al Brown, a lover of the Paris nightlife, no less. Now, Panama Al Brown, okay, beat 5 world champions. He fought 139 rounds against champions, and he beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter individually, fighting 40 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now Panama Al Brown had 49 fights against rated fighters. He scored a total of 59 knockouts, 30 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 11 in the first round. And Panama Al Brown was top 10 rated for a total of 11 years. He had the longest unbeaten run of 24 fights, and Panama Al Brown was pound for pound rated for 3 years. He had 2 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 0 wins. He scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Panama Al Brown's opposition fought rate comes in at 7 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 5 from 13. So Panama Al Brown had 17 fights against champions, including 8 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw with 5 knockouts. He had 4 fights against Hall of Famers, including 1 win, 3 loss, no draw with 1 knockout. And Panama Al Brown had 11 world title fights, including 10 wins, 1 loss, no draw, and 9 title defences. So there's the great Panama Al Brown, okay, to end this video, 70-61 now. Word of note, I don't know if I will get a chance to do another one today, but if I do another one today, okay, that means that I'm going to try and do the final 5 tomorrow, all in one day. They'll come pretty much one after the other. Okay, we maybe a little break after the first 2, so can moisten, have a drink, sit, have a drink, relax. But I'm gonna, if I do get another one of these done today, I'm gonna try and get the remaining 5, the top 50, okay, all done in one day. So they're very fresh. If people watch one, they watch another. It's all very fresh. So that's what I'm gonna try and do. So if I do another one of these today, I expect the final 5, okay, tomorrow, because the next one, if I do it today, it will be 60-51. That'll leave me 5 to do. So once I've got 5 to do, they're all getting done in one day. Okay, I'm just going to do them. I'll do one, take a 5-minute break, come back, do another, take a 5-minute break, come back, do another, and I'll just get through them. Okay, they'll all come tomorrow. So we'll see if I can. Now, if I don't get another one of these done today, I may try and still do all 6 tomorrow. But what I'm looking at now is I was looking at end of week, but I had to thought about it last night, and I thought I'm already into top 100. You know, the videos are between 15 and 25 minutes. So I can do them all in one day. I can do the final bunch in one day. So it's done. So I can chill a bit for 3 or 4 days. But, you know, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm aiming to have the playlist fully finished tomorrow. So anyway, watch out for more videos coming. If there is one coming today, it will come. If not, the final 6 videos will come tomorrow. So the countdown will then be finished tomorrow. So I am the Boxing Librarian. Big shout out to everyone in chat. I'm out for now.